Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about a couple of subjects today, but the most important one is the statement that was made by the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich against Egypt this time. The man said that Egypt bears considerable responsibility for the events of 7th of October. He asked Benjamin Netanyahu not to send a delegation to Cairo, and he said, quote, "The head of the Mossad should be sent to eliminate Hamas leaders around the world instead of sending him to Qatar, and the head of the Shin Bet should be sent to Rafah to destroy and kill all Hamas terrorists instead of sending him to talk to the enemy." He added, "Our response to Hamas and its imaginary demands will be in Rafah with Air Force planes, tanks, infantry, and paratroops." He added, "American pressure or fear of harming civilians should not deter us from occupying Rafah and destroying Hamas." Now, Bezalel Smotrich, the same man, he previously said that Egypt needs to open the Rafah crossing to allow Gazans to flee and immigrate to other countries. This was obviously the plan from this whole campaign, this genocide campaign, is the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. In response to what he said, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, they said that it is unfortunate and shameful that he publishes irresponsible and inflammatory statements which only reveal his appetite for killing and destruction and to destroy any attempt to examine the crisis in the Gaza Strip. They also said that these statements are totally unacceptable and that when Egypt absolutely controls all of its territory and will not allow any party to involve Egypt's name in any failed attempt to excuse its failure. Now, the Associated Press, they also published that Egypt is warning from suspending the peace treaty following military action in Palestinian Rafah. But the head of the Mossad still went to Egypt. He went to Egypt. He came back with no progress. There are no developments. Seems like Israel is not taking anything further. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he sent one of his office secretaries to make sure that the head of the Mossad is exactly doing what he's told to do, what he's being told to do. Imagine the level of distrust, even with the Mossad now. He obviously doesn't trust the IDF chief. He has problems in the war cabinet on the political level. Obviously, the society split is becoming increasingly less popular in Israel. And now he's not trusting the head of the Mossad. Now, with regards to Egypt and Rafah, people need to remember, because many people obviously, and in many cases rightfully so, criticize the positions of the Arab countries, including Egypt. But you need to understand very well, if Egypt followed the demands of Israel and the United States and followed the international pressure since the beginning of the genocide, we would have been in a completely different place now. The Palestinians wouldn't be, many of them wouldn't be in Gaza, and we would probably have the infrastructure ready for Israeli settlements. People need to remember that very well. With regards to the level of response, the lack of action that is required, how much we expect, we can all talk about these things. But when it comes to the ethnic cleansing and expulsion of the Palestinians, Egypt took a strong stance since the beginning of this war, and they haven't submitted to the Israeli pressure, neither the American pressure. And now they are threatening for the first time to suspend the peace treaty. Suspending the peace treaty with Israel is a step away from war. This is why this is getting delayed further and further. This is why they're still talking. This is why the IDF chief is challenging Benjamin Netanyahu. Apart from obviously the problems that this can escalate to when it comes to Egypt, you're talking about the military preparation or lack thereof of Israel. All of these things are very important. This is the first thing that I want to talk about. Second thing I want to talk about, typical. Israel is now admitting the levels, or obviously what they're admitting to. We obviously know they're pathological liars when it comes to this. The 20 Israeli soldiers were wounded in that ambush that happened in Khan Yunis. They didn't say that soldiers were killed, but they said 20 people were wounded. So there was a big event. Clearly they had the Rafah to cover it up. The bombardment, the barbaric bombardment and killing of civilians, bombing tents to cover this up. But now they're saying that it did happen, and then there were 20 people wounded. We had another attack, and imagine this, and again, these things are not highlighted, on mainstream media. I wonder why, because you're talking about reporters. Over 120 Palestinian reporters have been deliberately killed by Israel since this genocide began. Today, we had a targeted attack, and imagine the level that Israel goes to target journalists. A UAV targeting Al Jazeera reporters, Ahmed Matar and Ismail Abu Umar. Ismail Abu Umar, the medical staff, had to amputate him because his wounds were so severe. Imagine they killed most of Wa'il al-Dahduh's family, tried to assassinate him as well. And over 120 reporters and journalists working to bring the truth to us from what's happening. The people who are dedicating their lives, who do work that really, some people don't really appreciate it to the level that it should be appreciated. And they're losing their lives. They're suffering in such massive injuries, losses in life, losing their families. The reporters, like everyone in Gaza, you had 120 families wiped off the face of the earth, some of them with over 120 members. Imagine the level of genocide we're talking about. 60% of the houses are non-inhabitable. Infrastructure's gone. Almost 2 million internal refugees. 28,000 killed. 12,000 of which children, and almost 70,000 wounded. And some people are still under the rubble because of Israel's barbaric genocide bombings, and them not allowing people to rescue them or even evacuate them. And we saw these recent killings, brutal killings of children. A boy with his mom and the little girl Hind, they didn't even allow the ambulances to reach her. On the other hand, they're doing all of this with the civilians, yet when it comes to the resistance, these people are still failing. And one must question here, what is it exactly that they're doing? Really, if you're failing so heavily with the resistance, today we saw battles all across Gaza, Deir al-Balah, Gaza City, from the north to the south, Khan Yunis and Rafah. And we've had attacks from multiple Palestinian resistance groups. Al-Qassam Brigade said that they targeted 2 tanks only in Khan Yunis, 2 tanks with Yasin 105 missiles. So they're still being humiliated on the military perspective, on the military side. And as usual, they continue to punish the civilians. And they're still delusional. We've had the IDF spokesperson, Hagari. He's saying today that we're going to reach Yahya Sinwar dead or alive. You've only reached one significant brigade leader from Hamas so far, during which you killed 2 of your own soldiers. I published details about that, with gas bombs. And the mother was outraged after the conclusions, after they investigated it in Israel. I spoke about it in one of my previous videos. And they're still delusional. They think they can get to Yahya Sinwar. If you're unable to reach the significant military commanders when it comes to the Palestinian resistance, how are you going to reach Yahya Sinwar? How? Someone explained to me. Instead of trying to reach a deal, you're continuing your delusions. And this is not something that we're just talking about here, by the way. Top Israeli military and intelligence leaders are talking about it. This is something that I'm going to be talking about in my live stream tonight. And I'll obviously open up the questions for subscribers and members. So join me to discuss more about this, and obviously share your thoughts too. And these were the main things that I want to talk about in this video. And I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care.